The Democratic Republic of the Congo is going to the World Cup. We are going to the World Cup. We are going to carry with us everything this means. We are going to carry the history. We are going to carry the weight and the beauty of and the horror of the resilience of it. We are going to carry the players. We are going to carry the diaspora, the Canadian, the American, the French, the Congolese, the Belgian, who have kept the culture alive in living rooms and community centers and WhatsApp groups across the world. We, Congolese mondialists, are going to carry the people in the East who are still living under the shadow of conflict, who may watch the games on borrowed phones, slow internet connections, community screens, who deserve, I would say, peace far more than they deserve a World Cup, but who will, and I deeply hope, find in those 90 minutes window a reason to pause the suffering and remember that they belong to something larger than the current circumstances. Because we are not forgetting that Congo is under occupation. We are not forgetting that Congo is one of the poorest countries, even though it is one of the richest nations in the world. So we, the mondialists, are going to carry the memory of Patrice Lumumba, who dreamed of a sovereign Congo that could stand on the world stage as an equal. He did not dream of a football team specifically, but he dreamed of exactly this: his people, his country refusing to be invisible. Happy Saturday, everyone. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is going to the World Cup. It is at the World Cup in Houston right now for the first time in 52 years. So the last time that the Leopard stood on that stage, the country was called Zaire, and it was in 1974. Mobutu Sese Seko ruled with, I would say, absolute terror. And the team was, according to some stories, the team was ordered not really invited, but ordered not to concede more than 3 goals against Brazil. They lost 3-0, and then they were essentially silenced. Now it's 2026. We are back on the world stage. The Leopard are back, and this is the time, and this time for the first game on June 17th. The first match is against Portugal. So Portugal, the nation that sailed to the mouth of the Congo River in 1482, the nation that encountered a kingdom, the Kingdom of the Kongo, that had existed for more than a century before any European set foot there. A kingdom with its own king, its own law, its own culture, diplomacy, and most importantly, its own memory. So today we are not going to talk about football. We are celebrating football. I mean, my Congolese jersey. We are asking, though, a bigger question. Why does that history matter for what happens on that pitch on Wednesday? So I'm Gaetan Dofanzo, and this is Congo Unfiltered. And today we are going to go beyond the headlines. Stay with me for a second, and then I'm going to introduce my guest. All right. So my guest today is Maman Benedict Ndjoko. I'm going to bring her up in a second. She's a Congolese educator, historian, passionate activist based in Switzerland. And I call her Maman, obviously, dearly. I have a tremendous amount of respect and love for her. Her work on colonial memory, Congolese history, and the long political, I would say, struggle in not just in the U.S., not just in the Congo, but also the diaspora, and also the expansion. I would say the European expansion in Central Africa is kind of like exactly what we need for this conversation. So, Maman Benedict, I want to bring you up right now. Welcome to Congo Unfiltered. This is your first time on camera, but you have spoken before as a guest. So welcome to Congo Unfiltered, Mama Benedict. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
I don't hear you.
You cannot hear me? Wait, is it just me?
Is that normal?
Wait, the whole time nobody was hearing me?
I don't hear you,
Um,
Gaito.
hold on. 1 2 1 2 test. I think you need to check your audio. Yes, people can hear us. I think it's your audio. Let me help you. This is a stuff of being live. So I think he's
Oh,
your
you were
your
there
audio,
and you
your laptop.
disappeared. Do you hear me?
I can hear you. Hold on, let me
Mm-hmm.
do this.
So maybe I listen to you on X.
I think. Can you try to put your volume up?
Yeah,
Maybe.
well, I need to listen to you on X because
Okay.
I
Let
don't
me let
hear
me
you.
let me message you.
So
Hold on. Let me call you actually. Hey, that's good. That's a lot for y'all guys. I'm Benedict.
what do you call me?
Because you cannot hear me.
Why do you call me? Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? What I will be doing is that I'm going to listen to you on X,
Okay.
and I'll answer your questions like that. I don't know if it's going to work, but let's
That'll
try
be
to do
fine.
that.
Yeah. Perfect. That's really weird because we were literally on backstage. We could hear each other. Well,
Okay.
can you hear me now?
So it's good for me.
Okay. Good. All right. So welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, welcome to Kong Unfiltered. It's your first time on camera. You have spoken
No,
before to us.
I
Yes.
listen on X.
Yes, I remember you came as a guest once, but it was only audio. It was you and Son of Congo Curtis. But this is actually your first time on video, and so people get to see you. So welcome again. So before we start, I guess my first question, because we talked about the history, we said that we were going to carry the Congo
Thank you
during
very
that.
much for having me. It
Yes,
is very much appreciated.
I think there's a delay there. Um, I think we should do. Hold on. Uh,
Um, there is a problem. Yeah.
okay, let's do this. Mm, let's do. Let me call. Let me do phone so that you can hear me live. I think so that the delay won't be that much of an issue. So
Yes, hello.
okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I was saying, welcome to Kong Filter. My apologies to our folks watching us online. That's the technical difficulties that we have. But yeah, welcome again. Welcome back to Kong Unfiltered.
Oh,
Can you hear us?
yes, Gato, I'm here. No, I
Okay.
was afraid I lost you, but it's okay.
Oh, no, we can see you. So, first question that I have for you, because I said that we were going to carry the Congolese team. Um, we were going to carry that history, and today we are talking about history. So when we talk about 1482 and the arrival of a Portuguese explorer, Diogo Cao, at the mouth of the Congo River, l'embouchure du fleuve Congo, history books tend to treat, I would say, that moment as a beginning, right? But something was already there, something was already present, something already existed. What was the Kingdom of Congo, before any European arrived? Can you kind of like tell us more about the Kingdom of the Congo?
Yeah, sure. Um, when discussing the history of Congo before 1482, I believe we must begin by rejecting a misconception that you raised that has shaped how African history is often told. Uh, too frequently, I would say, the story begins with the arrival of the Europeans, as though nothing of historical significance existed beforehand. Yet, from the perspective of Congolese history, the Portuguese arrival is not the beginning of the story. It is merely the moment when Europe entered a world that was already been developing for centuries. So the territory that today forms the Democratic Republic of the Congo was not a political vacuum waiting to be discovered. It was a space in which different societies gradually developed increasingly sophisticated forms of political organization. Um, the Congo Basin contained many political traditions, the Kuba, the Lunda, Azande, Mangwetu, Yeke, and numerous others. However, two major poles of political civilization whose influence radiated across Central Africa were visible. The Luba world and the Congo world. I will say a few words about the Luba because I think it's important to understand where we
Hmm.
come from. So, the Luba political tradition occupies a special place because it became one of the great laboratories of political thought in Central Africa. What distinguished the Luba, what made them remarkable, was not merely their military strength or territorial expansion. What made them remarkable, it was their ability to create a political philosophy capable of organizing vast regions and also integrating a diverse population. So it was the conception of power itself. Kingship was understood as something sacred and historical. The ruler was not simply the strongest warrior. He was the guardian of collective memory, the guarantor of social harmony, and the link between the living and the ancestors. So authority derived from legitimacy as much as from force. The influence of the Luba world spread far beyond its original homeland. The famous story of Queen Luigi Wankonde from the Lunda Empire and the Luba hunter Chibindi, or sometimes Chibinda, also Ilunga, symbolizes this process through the union political concepts, institutions, and forms of aristocratic organization moved from the Luba world into the Lunda state. What emerged was not merely another kingdom, but one of the largest imperial formations in Central Africa. This is why to look at the Luba is not simply looking at it as a kingdom, but as a source of political innovation whose ideas traveled across the region. So
Do you
if
want to
the
give us like
Luba,
an example of the political innovation that we're talking about when it comes to the Luba Empire?
well, what they manage to do is to make, first of all, power a sacred thing, meaning that the the king in somehow could not be treated as any other person. It was a way of objectifying, of materializing this idea of power, and but also of a ruling class, of creating a figure that will be above all other figures. So this is a really important, I think, innovations that they brought, and they brought that from a figure also that is really special. It's the hunter, and the hunter is a figure that is really important in the African, I would say, cosmology in general, because this is a figure that very much understands the need of the society, but also understands nature, how it functions, and how you can, link the both world in order to make your people thrive. So this is a very important figure here, and they will put that figure into the center, and those kind of figure will become rulers because of the knowledge, because of their strength as well, and the capacity that they have to endure also very difficult situation. So this is something really important that they will bring to the fore in order to form this new kingship.
And you talked about, and thank you so much for driving us through the history, but also the political architecture of the kingdom. You focus more on the Luba, but I'm really curious to know about who governed those, because it's not just a collective, a collection of tribes. You define them, or you describe them as states that have rules, that have a power, a whole entire structure. But I'm really curious, what was the place of women in these different states, in terms of like organizing, in terms of like leading? If you can kind of like tell us the place of
But I
women back
think I
then.
told you already
Mhm.
about Luigi Wakanda. She was of the Lunda Empire. This is a very important figure, also historical
Mhm.
figure, because this is a woman who actually ruled on a federation of nations, and she was actually the sixth kid of the Lunda. I mean, her father, who had three boys and three girls, and she was the last one. And actually, the father had disagreement with his sons, and he didn't think there was they were fit actually to rule, and so he chose her as the ruler, and she was really, I would say, very smart, because she would not take a decision by herself. Sometimes she will always go to the council and discuss with them in order to know what was best for the empire. And when her brothers started, creating havoc, work in the kingdom, she decided to get married with the hunter, the Luba hunter, and she brought actually somebody foreign to that empire into this organization, which is quite clever because it also shows that our people not only thought about the necessity of not making, intermarriages, because of course we know how problematic it can be. So you need to bring somebody from outside in order to make your lineage live longer. And so this is what she did. And she also accepted the fact that he had ideas for this kingdom, how to rule it and make it prosper. And when Ilunga started also misbehaving, and also he started also to be a tyrant, and people were, of course, not happy about that. And for her, it was important to maintain the kingdom, and she decided to separate from him and rule that region by herself. There is also, and I forgot to say that as well, because it is also said that she was sterile, she could not bear children. And for her, it was so important to make that kingdom live that she chose another woman for Ilunga, a woman who would bear children in order for the empire to further exist.
Wow.
So we have really a very powerful woman figure here. They were not absent of all those statehood or all these kingdoms. These were not people that were set aside. And I even didn't tackle the Congo Empire, where we see feminine figure rising and defending that kingdom. But if you allow me, maybe to
Go
continue.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I think it's really fascinating to talk about really before colonialism, the place of feminism in in the Congo, right? Like, so go ahead, please.
And before I go ahead, I always want to remind people of something,
Hmm.
that normally in Africa, women never take the name of their husbands because they don't belong to the husbands. And we
Okay.
need to think about that.
Hmm.
We are not a property, and normally we are considered as partners. So the woman can also lead in the market because this is her place, and she will be also consulted whenever there is a problem. It's not a figure that is just submissive. Yeah, she has agency, she has an active role that was, of course, forgotten. And I think, I mean, this is my reading, and I think colonization participated to that a lot. So let's go back to all those political influences. So if the Luba represented the great political center of the interior, Congo represented the great political civilization of the Atlantic world. So the Kingdom of Congo was one of the most remarkable states of pre-colonial Africa, stretching across territories that today belong to Angola, Cabinda, the Republic of Congo, and of course the Democratic Republic of Congo, stretching even till Gabon. It is it united a diverse population under a common political framework. So its capital was Mbanza, Congo, one of the great urban centers of Central Africa. So the founder traditionally associated with this achievement is Nimi Alukeni. What makes him important is not simply the conquest, but the state building, and this is very important. He transformed local political entities into a larger political structure and gave them a common political identity. Significantly, Congo was first a political identity before becoming an ethnic one, which is very important. In other words, Congo was a political project. Okay, we don't talk ethnicity here. We have people who have a project of building a state. So at the summit of this system stood the Mani Congo, the Lord of Congo, also known as the Ntino. He embodied the unity of the kingdom. He administered justice. He led armies, and he represented the sovereignty of the state. Yet, Congo was not an absolute monarchy. One of the most fascinating aspects of Congo political culture is precisely that power was shared through institutions. The Manivunda occupied a position of extraordinary prestige. He was the guardian of tradition, legitimacy, and ritual authority. Historians sometimes describe him as a kingmaker because of the influence he exercised during royal succession. The Manimbata represented one of the founding pillars of the kingdom because of ancient political agreements linked to the origin of Congo. The province of Mbata enjoyed exceptional status. Its ruler played a crucial role in maintaining political balance and validating also royal authority. The Mani Soyo governed the coastal province of Soyo, one of the wealthiest and most strategically important region of the kingdom. Through trade and access to the Atlantic, Soyo accumulated enormous influence. At times, its rulers became powerful enough to challenge the authority of the Mani Congo himself. This reveals something essential, I think, about Congo. Succession was not automatic. A king could not simply designate his eldest son and expect universal obedience. Political legitimacy emerged through negotiation among major institutions, aristocratic families, and provincial powers. This system created both stability and also flexibility, but it also created vulnerabilities that foreign powers would later exploit, of course. Economically, we can say that Congo was highly developed, agriculture flourished, the new iron and iron production supported both the agriculture and also warfare. The new trade, and they had trade networks that connected the Atlantic coast with the interior. There was specialized profession and knowledge was transmitted through institution and initiation systems. So when the Portuguese arrived in 1482, they did not encounter a primitive society. They encountered a state. They encountered diplomats, judges, governors, soldiers, and administrators. they encountered a civilization. This is why I prefer the word encounter to the word discovery. The Portuguese may have discovered Congo from their perspective, but Congo already knew itself. Its people
Let
knew
me
their
pause.
river, which they call Nzadi. They knew their history, their institutions, and their rulers. What occurred in 1482 was not the discovery of Africa, it was the meeting of two political wars. And I think it's really important to say that.
And let me jump in right there because I think that the historical um, aspect or portion that you mentioned, particularly the role of women, I really love that because when we speak about, when you hear the way Africa is being spoken about, talked about even in writings, and they portray Africa as a patriarchal, and you do find sexism right now in modern day Africa. But what you were telling us for the case of the Congo, that women were playing a major role in the way the society was organized. But then, in your own words, the colonial time kind of like ended that or changed or altered the way Congolese folks view women back then. And but I really want to stop on a word that gets also used constantly in history, and you mentioned that it's discovery, right? Saying that the Portuguese explorers hired by the Belgian king um, were essentially credited with discovering the Congo River, discovering the Kingdom of Congo. My question to you is, what does that language actually do? Uh, what is really erased when we accept to use such language?
But I think that this is a word of domination because who writes history? We didn't for a long time. We were erased of that history. I just remind people that not long ago we had one of the former French president who said that the African men didn't enter history enough, you
Mhm.
know. And so this is about who holds the pen, who is writing. And of course, they're writing from their perspective. For them, it was a discovery. And it also shows that the idea of possession, because whenever you discover something, you are the one who says that this is, for instance, a terra nullus, meaning nothing existed there before. And actually, your words become performatives, meaning that you create a reality with your own words, your own worldview. And when you say this is a terra nullis, where even when you see that people are there, so you are in that kind of cognitive dissonance, that allows you to be very powerful and to do whatever you want. So you are the one who is going to write history, who is going actually to erase or maybe even create traditions that never existed before. And I just want maybe to exemplify that idea, to talk about, for instance, what happened in the Sankuru during the Belgian presence in Congo.
Sankoro, which is located in current Kasai, right? Or maybe I'm
Yes,
getting, okay,
exactly.
Kasai. Okay.
What happened is that during World War One, the Belgian, of course, they were battling, in Europe because there was civil war in Europe, and they needed to have socks, for the soldiers. So the Sankuru was a region where they started to plant, cotton in order to make socks. But they asked men to bring a certain quantity, and a quantity that was so high that they couldn't do that by themselves. And women traditionally were the ones who would, work the fields and, provide for the family in that sense. So what happened is that you had more and more men who would marry many women in order to make them work in the fields and, meet the demands of the colonizers. And these are society in that period who didn't know polygamy. So sometimes it makes me also laugh when I listen to certain Africans saying, "Oh, we are polygams." No, not all of us were. Maybe some of us, yes, but not all of us were. Some of these tradition, I would say, were forced upon people. They were not something that was within them. So this is what I think the
Mm.
world discovery can bring, because it's a worldview, it's domination, it's a way of shaping the world that doesn't pertain to the person who was discovered.
Yes, I got two questions from, and that's also coming from internal. How much of modern day Angola was part of the Congo, the Kingdom of Congo, if you know?
Well, I mean, this was really a very large territory if we look at that. And I think that we need to talk about the northern part. I can't be really precise here because
Mhm.
what would be useful it is to have a map in order to show that, because I
Okay.
cannot just, talk about, but it was really a vast kingdom.
Let me try to see if I can pull up a map right now.
Yeah, because I think it's better when people see it.
Oh, interesting. Let me see. Let me see. How do you share? Share my screen. Which one? This one. Okay. Let's see. So there's a map right there. But probably we want the modern day. You let me know which map you think will be good to use. Maybe this one? This one?
Um, Let me check because I can't see you. Um,
You can't see the
no,
map?
no, I see it now.
Oh, okay, okay,
There are
okay.
various map here.
I think
I
this
think
one.
this one can illustrate more or less, yes, what that kingdom was, how large it was.
That's oh wow. Yeah, I think I was checking online that said that it was 50 10 to 15% of Angola's current total land mass, sharing the rest of its historic territory with modern day Democratic Republic of the Congo. Let me just share this tab instead. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, well, it was a very large and vast
yeah.
empire.
Yeah, 10 to 15%. And the other question that I have, Queen Zinga, would you say that she's considered to be
Well, I
Congolese?
would like maybe if you are not bothered, because these are things I'm going to talk about normally. If we can just, follow along with the
Yeah,
question. I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sorry, I'm too
Yeah.
teacher like, but I like things to be.
Yeah, 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 yeah. These are questions that I get
Yeah, but
online.
we
So
will answer them because I
okay.
think it's important we see what happens next, and
Yes.
especially when the Portuguese arrive in that region. So
Yes, and that's my next question, because you said that you rather use the term encounter versus discovery, and you also say that there was a clash of civilization, of culture, when the European arrived. So when Diego Cao arrived in 1482, the Kingdom of Congo, I presume, did not collapse suddenly. There was a period of contacts and exchange. You talked about a clash of two different civilizations, and even, I would say, a form of diplomatic relationship. How do you characterize those early years between Congo and Portugal, and what made that relationship ultimately unequal?
I think it is very important to first say that this relationship between Portugal and the Kingdom of Congo was began as a relationship between two sovereign powers. The first ruler to engage with the Portuguese was Nzinga Nkuvu. He was later baptized as Joao I. So his decision to establish relations with Portugal, I think it is important to not see that, not to interpret that as submission. Like many rulers throughout history, he sought new alliances, technologies, and opportunities. His son, later Mvemba Nzinga, known to history as Afonso I. This is the one that we know most. He became one of the most remarkable African rulers in the 16th century. He corresponded directly with the Portuguese monarchy, promoted Christianity, sought to strengthen state institution, and he envisioned Congo as a participant in a broader international order. Yet, the relationship soon revealed its darker, I would say, dimensions. The Portuguese quickly understood that the succession system I talked about earlier, the succession system of Congo could be manipulated because kingship depended upon aristocratic support rather than strict hereditary succession. Rival princes frequently competed for power. Portugal learned to intervene in these rivalries, supporting one faction against another and transforming internal political disputes into opportunities for influence. So the strategy became one of the most effective instruments of Portuguese power. The weakening of Congo did not occur solely through military force. It occurred through political penetration. At the same time, the slave trade expanded dramatically during that period. And what had begun as diplomacy increasingly became a relationship structured by extraction. Afonso himself repeatedly complained that Portuguese traders were kidnapping subjects of the kingdom and undermining royal authority. He wrote to the King of Portugal because even his own children were made captive and became slaves. So he wrote
Wow.
to the King of Portugal and said, what I wanted from you is to have more knowledge is to have maybe more buildings, with new architectures. He said he wanted more priests and less merchants in the Congo. But unfortunately, with that slave trade, the merchants actually took over. So the story of this region during this period is therefore not simply a story of encounter. It is also a story of resistance. And one of the greatest figure, and this is why I was saying that I will talk about it later, one of the greatest figures of that resistance was Queen Zinga of Nogo. She was also making the slave trade, well, because sometimes as Africans we also have a little bit of problems of saying certain things. She was also trading people, but of course we need to understand in what I would say worldview it was made, because these were captives and they were for those people they lost the war, so they could be handed over. So one of the greatest figures of that resistance was Queen Zinga of Nongo and Matamba. Um, I would say that few leaders in African history actually combined diplomacy, military skills, and political intelligence as effectively as she did. She negotiated treaties when necessary. She also forged alliances when it was useful to do so, and she fought really relentlessly when it was required to do so. She understood that Portuguese ambitions threatened not only the individual rulers, but the sovereignty of African states themselves. So Queen Zinga represents one of the earliest example of African resistance to European imperial expansion. A century later, another extraordinary figure emerged within Congo itself, and it's Kimpavita. So by the beginning of the 18th century, Congo had been devastated by civil wars and foreign interference. The kingdom was fragmented. Many believed its greatness actually was over, had passed forever. And Kimpavita refused to accept that idea. She preached that Christianity belonged to Africans as much as Europeans. She argued that Congo had a sacred destiny and called for the reunification of the kingdom. So her movement combined spiritual renewal with political restoration. That's why she was so dangerous to the Portuguese. In many ways, she was attempting to save Congo. And her execution in 1706 did not destroy her influence. I would say, on the contrary, she became one of the most powerful symbols of African spiritual and political resistance through we see figures such as Afonso I or Queen Zinga or Kimpavita. We see that the history of Congo, it's not solely a history of decline, a story of decline. It is also a story of adaptation, resistance as well, and the continuous struggle to preserve that sovereignty.
Thank you so much, people commenting. Juice plus 345. No sound. I appreciate you. So I was reading comments from Positive Vibe that says positive vibes, and then added God bless the people from disease, and then Roba Lou Gibson, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name. That person said, until the lions get their own historians, the hunt story will always glorify the hunters. So that's kind of like the question that the comments that we have on X on Instagram, and I see Congolese Action with platform on to shout out to you guys. So there is not a direct line. Um, I'll say not a straight line at least, but a traceable one from Portugal, and we're already in 1700 with Kimpambita right now, from the 1482, all the way to the conference, the Berlin Conference in 1884. That's when or where the essentially European powers, nations, 14 of them, divided Africa without a single African voice in the room. So how do you draw that line historically, and at what point does a encounter become domination?
Well, I think that if we fail to link the idea of the capitalist idea in the mind of the Europeans, you cannot explain that link.
Mm,
It is important to understand how capitalism was formed, and it was formed through the slave trade. The Portuguese won't, like other countries such as maybe France or even Britain, they won't have big companies like that who will trade going from Europe to Africa and then cross the Middle Passage to the Americas and then back to Europe, the triangular commerce that was always described, but so in sometimes I think strange ways, in the sense that people say that Africans are the ones who sold theirs, and because they were given certain goods, when the colonizers came. And sometimes we failed to account of the fact that, for instance, countries like Portugal would free real psychopaths from their prisons. They were called the lançados, and these people were launched, in those territories in Africa in order to capture people. And in each kind of war, you'll have people who will collaborate, of
mm,
course, who will sell people, but this doesn't account for the whole of Africa, because we know, for instance, that for certain tribes, even in Congo in particular, they will use, scarring in order to produce scars on their faces to make themselves so ugly that nobody would want, to take them away. This was a form of resistance. I talk about that because, as you asked me the question, how you make the link. This is the link. This is capitalism when it understands that it can sell bodies, and that those bodies will be very much effective in the new world that they have discovered. This is where the link is made. And I think it's always interesting because uh, I think it's always for me mind-boggling, the fact that we never think about the relation of the abolition of slavery, which is most of the time around 1800s, and then in 1884 you have the Berlin Conference.
mm,
I mean, it's just that is that those
Does
people
add up.
have thought, that that history, they knew that it was not possible for them anymore to treat people as they did. And because also, and we don't say that enough, because the Haitian Revolution really brought something into that Atlantic world. People thought about their freedom. We have many instances, many islands where you had people fighting for their liberation, and they didn't just accept, like that, to be submitted. But once it was not possible anymore for them to use slavery, they had the Berlin Conference, and I think they just thought this is even better because we can make them slaves on their own soil. We don't
Mhm.
have to move them. We don't have to create insurances in order to get money if we lose the goods, which are the bodies. We don't have to do that. We can do that on their soil. We can enslave them there, and that's it. And this is, I think, what the Berlin Conference is about. Because when you think about the fact that the last country in abolishing the slavery, I don't have the exact date here, but it's Brazil, and it's really close to the Berlin Conference. So, you know,
Mhm.
the link is there. There is something that never stopped. Once they discovered that it was possible for them to make money out of black bodies, they never stopped to do so. And Portugal, during the Berlin Conference, actually claimed that it had the rights on Congo because it was the first, European power to have, as they said, discovered that region. So it was a battle within all those European powers to get that big piece of cake that was the Congo. And Portugal actually put to the fore what it has done in Congo in order to be granted that region.
So, Mom Benedict, thank you again for that uh, response. And I would like now to connect the past and the present because you are an educator and you teach young Europeans, and you also organize in the diaspora. You have been organizing and trying to also inspire youth to also organize and take more roles into their own revolution back home in the Congo. And but in Switzerland, you sit in classroom with young Europeans whose smartphones contain cobalt from the Congo, and most of them do know it. I think people know it by now. When you bring, or if you, I don't even know if you do, but I'm sure that you might have done that. And when you bring history into that room, what happens? What do students uh, uh, how what is this, what are the student reaction? Do they resist? What essentially breaks through the minds when you're trying to teach and trying to bring history into the conversation for what they have to do for the future, what they have to do in their everyday lives?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I was lucky enough, but I never really had resistance. You had maybe one or two people who were
Stubborn in
bored,
class.
yeah, to the max. I would say because of what I was teaching. But most of the time, no. On the contrary, there is a lot of curiosity, and for them, it's important when I talk to them that always tell me, but this is a story we didn't know, you know. And my role as a teacher, and this is something that is written in the law in Geneva, is to provide my students with topics that will actually try to hinder phenomenon like racism, and teaching stories that are not often told participate to that. So I'm really in my role when I do it. It's not something I would say controversial. This is a position I can defend, and most of my students are really curious and they are more than happy to learn. And I always tell them, you know what? This is a way of looking at the world. What I want you to take from that is to be citizens tomorrow who are able to ask questions, you know, not just take everything that is told, ask questions. Go and look, for that part of history that is not told. And this is not conspiracy because we're working with sources. We read what people said, we try to interpret that. We try to make links with our present day. It is important for them to be open, to others. It's not enough to say I'm not racist, because I have a black friend or
Black friends.
whatever. It's
Yeah,
not
we
enough.
heard that.
It's enough. I think it's important to understand what were the circumstances of other people, how, and I always ask them this question: how a human being can decide that another human being is less than
Yes.
an animal
Hmm.
and do
Hmm.
whatever he or she wants with
Hmm.
that person. This is a fundamental question. This is a question that talks about humanity. How do we treat humanity? How we treat others? And the way we do that tells more about ourselves than it tells about the other person.
Hmm.
And it is also important, I think, for them to see how all that subjugation of the black bodies were intellectually constructed. We are not talking about some, some kind of insults that were said by such and such person. You have people, you have the judicial system that is going to work in order to subjugate those bodies. You have people who will, use the climate in order to say that our bodies actually were better off being slaved because we were already used, to be so lazy or whatever. So they had, to beat us a little bit in order for us to work. So we really have so many sources that show how much, how far that intellectual world participated in the subjugation of a people. So it is important for me to show that, and it's not. And I always tell them, my aim it's not for them to feel guilty, because I always tell them, what do I do with somebody feeling guilty? We are talking about crimes here, and crimes need to be prosecuted. They don't need to have people being guilty. They need people to be aware of the crimes that were committed during history, and people to get reparations for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love it. Teaching as a tool to deconstruct racism,
And also,
education.
excuse
Yes.
me,
Yeah.
Gaetan, and
Mhm.
also, you know, sometimes in my classes, there are one or two black students. And I remember in my early days teaching, I met a young Kenyan girl. And I told her, okay, I mean, I told the class, so now we're going to talk about slavery. And she bursted really, shouting at me. She was very aggressive, and she told me, "I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to do that. It's always us. It's always us." And I said, "What is always us?" And she said, "I don't want to listen to that slave, story and everything." And I just told her, "You know what? Maybe you give me a chance, and maybe you will see that I will tell maybe the story differently. You know,
Wow.
it won't be, it's always us, you
Mm,
know. And you see how much is important because we have young people that are hurt, you know, because they always heard that they were inferiors, that uh, they had no history,
mm,
precisely. They had no history, or that their history was rubbish, that anywhere there was somewhere there in the jungle, you know, half naked, and so they were worthless. And so it's important to come and to talk about those empires, to talk about those kingdoms, to talk about state building, to talk about all that, how people, perceive the world. It is important then to make a link, for instance, between that Congo region and something like the Quilombo do Palmares in Brazil, and to see how those people actually maintain traditions, and the fact that they chose, to create the Quilombo within a place where there were palm trees, and this talks, straight from the Congo. And this is a Quilombo that resisted nearly 1 century. When people talk about Zumbi do Palmares, Ganga Zumba, and everything, there is a direct link to the Congo. When a figure like Zumbi do Palmares becomes the central figure of Brazilian resistance against dictatorship, against military dictatorship, and that it creates in November what is called in Brazil a Dia de Consciência Negra, meaning the day of Black
Black
consciousness.
consciousness.
Our children need to listen to that,
Hmm.
because we need to restore them, because a lot of them, since they were young, they just heard, oh, you just a savage, or you don't know what, but they were called names. And history is there to help understand and to restore them to dignity. And I think that this is really something important here. And this is why you see, I remember when I finished my studies in history and English and political sciences and education. And I was offered to try to pursue a doctorate. But for me, it was important to be where our young people were. It was important for me to see, for me, that they saw me, and that it was possible to be a history teacher and be Black. And I had no need of downgrading, white people, but only, tell the facts and reflect on that, and always put, all the discussion that we have under the guise of what it tells us about
Yeah.
the human.
Yes. Yes. And I love it. Try challenging racism, challenging stereotypes about Africa, about Africans through education, through teaching. And I think that there is really this dominant image that you painted so well of Congo, of African, of Black people. And we see that in Western textbooks. We also see that in Western Europeans media, mainstream media, when it comes to crisis, when it comes to war, disease. Now that we're talking about the disease, um, um, poverty as well, and your explanation, your word of wisdom, talking to us about the Kingdom of Congo, about history, and also how European arrival um, influenced that, and how the Kingdom of Congo, talking about the Kingdom of the Congo, disrupts those racist and stereotypical notions completely. And I think it's always good to use teaching education as you've been doing, as a way to really offer a counter narrative of African statehood, African sophistication, African diplomacy, African education, and African excellence. And thank you
Philosophy.
again. Philosophy as
Philosophy.
well. And to me, the role of historical memory is very important because that shapes identity. And for young Congolese in the diaspora, in Europe, in Switzerland, in Brussels, in Paris, in the United States, in the UK, what does knowing this history really do? Like, what changes when a young Congolese person learns that their ancestors built a kingdom before Europe arrived? And just the example of the students in your classroom, we thought that you were going to teach a story from a victimized lens, or trying to again, once again, portray the African, the Black man as a property, Black man as a failure. But then when you teach that story differently, that history differently, what does that get into? What does that do in the head of that young person in diaspora from your experience? What does historical memory really give back to the people who have been told that they have no history worth knowing?
Well, it would be difficult for me to really know what is in their head. But
But
from
that students, right? You
yeah,
said
but
give me a chance.
for what I know, maybe I can maybe answer with
Mhm.
something that happened to me once I told that, and for me, it's also important to always say that I'm Congolese, and then I had a young student, young female student, black one, at the end of my course. She came and she told me proudly, "I'm also Congolese." So
Mm,
I think that maybe this is the answer. But I want to say that yes, history matters because it restores historical depth, and especially to a country that is so often viewed, as you said, only through the lens of crisis. When many people hear the word Congo, they think of war, minerals, humanitarian emergencies. Yet, these are only the latest chapters of a much longer story.
mm,
So it is important to restore that historical depth for us to understand that we were not just born yesterday, but maybe the day before yesterday and the day before yesterday. And this is important because, and I think that for Congolese people and especially the youth, this history, it doesn't have to be nostalgia, because this is also maybe sometimes a problem. It's really to understand that it is dignity. It reminds us that our ancestors were historical actors,
mm,
and as you said, rather than passive victims. They built institutions, they negotiated alliances, they imagined political futures. So it is important to say that story because it needs to challenge simplistic explanations of contemporary difficulties. For instance, and I want to say that because I think that the Luba political tradition really beats maybe another conversation. But when you think about the fact that the Luba king, I mean, power was not only based on force, but authority rested upon, of course, sacred legitimacy, historical memory, but most importantly, it rested upon the ruler's ability to maintain social harmony.
Hmm.
What does it tell us today? When you know that, and you look at what is happening in the Congo today,
Hmm.
and sometimes we are going maybe to hate on certain people for what they do, because they present also all they're doing as being part of traditions and history, where there is falsification actually of history here. Because if you really think about what a Luba ruler is, he needs to maintain social harmony. And for him to maintain that social harmony, he needs to look around him and also maintain good relations with people outside its own people. And that is history. And this is the grandeur of that particular civilization. But when you don't know that, then you're manipulated. You think that the expression of your identity as a Congolese and as a Luba, for instance, is the expression of force solely. And you don't know nothing about that other part that shows a ruler that needs, to be reflective, that needs to think, that needs to sit down and always measure, you know, what is good for my people.
Yeah.
And that's why you see, as I say, in order to fight falsification, in order to fight, ignorance, and also to give a sense of dignity to our people, we need to learn that history.
And I love the connection that you made between that past or that history of how the Kingdom of Congo was able to sustain because essentially it was delivering to the people. That was history. And you're trying to compare that to what's happening today in the Congo, the social economic situation in the Congo, the war in the Congo, the disease in the Congo, a president who's trying to essentially capture a third term. I'm not even saying, I don't know if I'm using the right term, but trying to have a third a term. All of this is happening while the Congo is going to the first World Cup since 1974, uh, um, which again is is something grandiose. And you Congolese, and you know yourself how we be acting when there was a football game. And the last time that happened, it was 1974. The country was called Zaire. It was a dictatorship again, right? History always repeats itself or seems to be repeating itself. And then we know what happened. The Congo didn't make it, obviously, and we lost, I think, all of our games. And then the social condition of the people continue to deteriorate until today. And 52 years later, we see the exact same issue. How do you talk justice in the midst of all this? I would say something that's supposed to be a joyful event. How do you continue to motivate? How do you continue to encourage folks to pay attention to what's going on in the Congo? To say that, hey, the current president is um, restraining the liberties, the civil liberties of the people. On Fridays, the opposition, and I cannot even try to end do this broadcast without even mentioning that the opposition did a march, a peaceful march, and it was repressed violently. The opposition is saying that at least two people died. Key figures of the opposition themselves were injured. Again, in the midst of this World Cup, how do you uh, talk about the World Cup? How do you enjoy it at the same time continue to resist? I know it's a hard question, but for young people that seems to find any reason that they can to escape their current situation, I think it's important to remind people that that how they're being juggling with their own lives, and how it's also important to remember the current conditions, things happening back home versus what's actually seen on media with the World Cup.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to take some time and talk about 1974, because I think it's an important moment, really.
Mhm.
And I think that to understand the significance of Zaire's participation in the 1974 World Cup, I think we must place it within a broader history of black struggles during the 1970s. And this decade, I think it marked a turning point across the world. You had black communities that were moving beyond, I would say, the struggle for formal legal rights, and asking deeper questions about power, representation, dignity, and liberation. Questions that we ask today again.
Mhm.
So, in the United States, in particular, so the victories, I would say, of the civil rights movement had had ended legal segregation, but inequality persisted. And this eventually gave rise to the Black Power movement. And we had, of course, figures such as Stokely Michael and Angela Davis. And they argued that freedom re- required not only rights, but also economic power, cultural affirmation, and self determination as well. And we had during that period that slogan, Black is Beautiful, transformed into cultural consciousness. And the African heritage was no longer something to hide. It became something that was celebrated. So at the same time that this was happening, I would say in Africa itself, was experiencing a profound transformation as well. We had newly independent states that were also searching their own path. We had liberation struggles that intensified in Angola. I just remind people that the independence of Angola is 1974, precisely that same year. We had Mozambique, we had battles in Zimbabwe, we had South Africa, and the upheaval of Soweto in 1976. And this Soweto uprising, this became really a global symbol of resistance, and Pan-Africanism, of course, at that period reached one of its modern peaks. And it's interesting to think about it today, looking at what is happening in Africa and in South Africa in particular at this moment. So it was in that context that Zaire appeared in the 1974 World Cup. And I think that the significance of that moment was far beyond football. I think that for millions of Black people around the world, Zaire at that moment represented something more than a national team. It represented Africa's arrival on one of the most visible global stages.
And just
And the
to add,
same,
Zaire was the first Black African country at the World Cup.
exactly,
Yeah, got
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And if you think about the fact that the same year, Kinshasa hosted the famous Rumble in the Jungle between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, and so suddenly Congo stood at the center, really, of a global Black imagination that connected also Africa, the Caribbean, and the African diaspora. Because if you think Art Celia Cruz singing in Kinshasa, it's quite incredible. So the World Cup team carried, I think, that symbolism with it. So as you said, the results on the field were disappointing, of course, but I think historically the event symbolized something much larger than sport. It reflected a decade, I think, in which maybe Black communities across the world were asking not merely how to obtain rights, but how to achieve genuine liberation. And
Mm,
when we look at the Congo team today, the way they arrived, maybe people would, I don't know, they will minimize the fact that we decided to come in dignity
mm,
with that sap. Of course, people said, "Oh, these are Congolese. They used to wear clothes," but no, we decided to to come in dignity.
mm,
The person who designed those outfits made something really particular, and there were
mm,
signs that were so important. I mean, we talked about this, the fact that we had a space, we have a space in the Congo where we have genius minds that created political systems and also the attributes of power, which is the leopard. And not only that, if you look at the bags that they had, this is the lokombe, this is the instrument that the batetela play.
mm,
And the motto of the batetela is what? Otetela ke mafumbe. The tetela is not a slave, is not to
mm,
sell.
mm,
So this is what that team brought. And that's why I say we decided to come in dignity. And some people just maybe saw superficial things and, started, arguing between the fact that they were dressed and that, what was, they would be just in the beach. Yes, fine. But I say that if that sense of dignity, if that sense of identity for Congolese needs to go through that, if it is restored for the young generation through those attires, then so be it. But it's important for us, as I was saying, to pass on the semiotic, the meaning of what we've seen there. What does the leopard means in the history of Congo, in the history of power in Congo? What does it mean? What does Otetela Kimafumbe mean? Why would a Congolese say these words? Why that idea of resistance is presented to us through music and through something else, through another art that is football. These are all the questions that it raised. I mean, I had this conversation with my own son. I mean, he's a football player. He loves the Congo. He loves the Congolese team. He loves everything about the Congo. But it was important to tell him that what he saw was more than what was maybe said about it. And it was important to have that in mind and to understand, and I repeat it again, that we came in dignity. And that's, I think, the message that we can carry with us from this appearance of the Congolese team in the World Cup. They were told that they had, to quarantine for 20, I don't know, remember, 21
One
days.
day.
They
Hmm.
were threatened not to, participate because of such and such. But we decided to come in dignity and tell the world we are the
Yeah.
Congo.
We are invisible. We refuse to be invisible. Exactly.
Exactly. Like, we've been invisible the last 3 decades, where the world made everything possible, the utmost possible, to make us invisible. But we came with our style and we said we are the Congo. So for me, actually, the moment I saw that, I was really happy about that. And I was maybe happy that a lot of people thought, it was superficial. And sometimes I say it's good that when people, don't understand who you are. Because the day, you will really show it, they will be like flabbergasted. So it was, for me, it was a great joy. And I think it's a good news because, sometimes I think histories has strange ways of doing things. But I think that even sometimes, yeah, okay, like everybody, I'm discouraged. But then I tell myself, as a historian, you know a lot of history endings. You know what humans were capable of, even in desperate situations, and they changed things. So this is my hope. And as I say, history or maybe faith has mysterious way of talking to us, and I think that history talked to us through the outfit of the
Mhm.
Congolese team, and I was there for it. Really, I
Yeah.
enjoyed it very much. I loved it.
Yes. So June 17th, that's the first game. Congo will face Portugal. And then we discussed that at the beginning lengthily, not symbolically, that game literally against Portugal, the national team of the country whose explorers first arrived at the Kingdom of Congo in 1482, whose presence set in motion everything that we have been discussing today, that disrupted the entire life and entire political culture, structure, infrastructure. When you think about that fixture, about those 90 minutes, what do you see?
What I see is us telling the Portuguese that we survived. We survived. They tried to erase us, but here we are. And again, I mean, we didn't change in the sense that when they came to us, we considered them as human beings, as people with whom we could exchange. We didn't look at them as being lesser human that we were, but they considered us otherwise. So those 90 minutes will be the 90 minutes where each minute that will pass, it's a minute where we say, we survived
Mhm,
and we are here.
mhm,
And maybe we might lose the game. Well, our children will come back and will tell them again, we are here, we survived. And each minute will tell you so until we'll score that goal and we
right.
will win the match. And maybe even here, we will win the match. Who knows?
Who
Why?
knows?
Why,
Yeah,
why would Portugal be the winner?
for real.
Do we know what our players really have, within them? What how they're going to work that? It can happen, and we need to have faith. And if it doesn't pass, I would only have that phrase: "We survived,
We
and we
survived.
are here."
We survived and we are here. And last question, and I think it's bringing back to that connection because you always teach, you always tell me to be active, to tell Congolese to liberate themselves. So football has always been more than sport in post-colonial Africa. And for I think for many nations, the pitch was one of the few spaces where sovereignty could be expressed and witnessed globally. And I mentioned that again, we are talking World Cup. We talked history in the context of the World Cup. At the very same time in the Congo, people are being displaced due to war. People are being killed due to not just a war of aggression, not just because of cooperation, because of capitalism, uh, uh, greed, um, or extractivism, but also killed by their own government, also displaced by their own government, beaten to death. The protests the opposition organized. So, can sovereignty, justice, freedom, the right to protest, the right to exist in your own country, in your own borders, can that still be expressed while we talk about the World Cup? Is it still possible? And what is the specific meaning of that expression for Congo in this match, in this World Cup right now?
But I think this is what we do here. It's precisely what we do here. Is that we think about this game, not only what is going to happen in the pitch during the 90 minutes, but everything that came around it. And I really think that your ability to fight a power that is tyrannical, that doesn't respect your being, necessitates for you to become free. to become free in your head. And I think that joy, genuine joy, sometimes allows to become free. You know what? I once asked my son, because he's playing football since he's 6, and I have to say, maybe some people are going to say that I was a bad mother, but I was not very interested in that. And I would let him go with his father, and I was just, oh God, make him stop that thing. And
African mom.
so, and I was like, oh yeah, you need to stop that thing. And he went on and he went on. And one day I asked him, I say, tell me what happens, when you play. Is it possible that you actually start to climb, over there, and we stay on Earth and nothing else matter, and you are just up there? And he told me it's exactly that. And then I thought, what a luck, really. What a luck that such a young human being already find a way to make himself be free and not be with us here when we, I don't know, think about, I don't know what that bothers us, but each week he had instances where he could be free. And I think that if that team is playing, it gives maybe in a certain way the possibility of Congolese people to experience pure joy, to be free, to be proud of who they are, and with that become. And I think it helps. Maybe it would be just it would be just something that would not be perceived, but these are small cracks that are really necessary in order to understand really what we are up against, in order to understand that the king is naked. So it is important what is happening here. And also we need to understand, and we've seen that also when we have when we had our brothers and sisters in Goma under this occupation, the Rwandan occupation. But when the Congo qualified for the World Cup, we saw them in the street, and they had this moment where they could shout, "We are Congolese." And it didn't mean only we are Congolese, it also meant, and we want to remain as such. So these moments are really important. These moments are those little cracks, that will allow people to be free, and to be free in their mind, in their heart, and don't fear just to say what I see here is unacceptable. And I will not put up with that. And I will not support the people who are hurting the human the way they do. And for that, we need instances of joy. We need moments where we can elevate ourselves with that joy, and to experience again and again that it is possible, and that we are not bound with those people. We are not there. I don't know how you say that in English. They're obligé. We are not. We are our own people, and able to think and distinguish what is right and what is wrong, and what we need to fight for. So I would say this is maybe what I see here. And as I say, I really hope that they will give us joy.
Yes, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to close out and speak directly to the diaspora. Friends of the Congo as a Pan African institution based in Washington, D.C., in the U.S., we speak, as the name calls it, to those who want to be supportive of the Congolese struggle, but we also speak of those who found themselves far away from the Congo, those who live in places. We're doing this episode in English, we're speaking to the diaspora as well. And you live and work in the heart of Europe, that puts you specific in that position, close to institutions that shaped history with the United Nations, with human rights, with World War One and Two, close to also the young Congolese people or person who grew up inside those institutions in those countries. What do you have to say, speaking directly to the diaspora, to the Congolese diaspora, about their responsibility and what they carry?
Well, I think that for the Congolese diaspora, one thing, memory is responsibility. So many of us live in societies where Congo is known primarily, as I said, through images of conflict. But yet, our history is much larger than our tragedies. We are heirs to Congo, to Luba, Lunda, and countless other traditions. We are heirs to figures such as Kimpavita and Queen Nzinga. We are also heirs to generations of people who struggle to preserve dignity under extraordinary, difficult circumstances. So the future of Congo depends, I think, partly on the recognition, on no, on reconnecting pride with knowledge. Knowledge without pride becomes sterile. Pride without knowledge becomes empty. But when knowledge and pride come together, memory becomes a force capable of shaping the future. So for me, this is why history matters, because the story of Congo does not begin with colonization. It does not begin with war. It does not begin with a crisis. It begins with civilization that imagined political futures, built institutions, and shaped history long before the world learned their names eventually. So, and perhaps I think that this is the most important lesson we can carry forward today. Memory is a responsibility. Make good use of that.
Yes, and Benedict Ndjoko, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for this conversation, much needed. And I think this is exactly what Congo Unfiltered exists to hold. And thank you for your wisdom, for your knowledge, for also your advocacy all these years, and for being here and spending the time with me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm happy that I became wiser because I was a very unwise person when I was younger. So maybe age helped me a little bit. So this is really good to hear that. And thank you very much, Kaito, again for the invitation. I very much appreciate that. And you know that I appreciate you very much. And as I told you last time, don't be so nice.
All right, this is a conversation off the record
Thank
to
you.
have, but but thank you so much. Love you so much.
Love you
Forecast
too.
for the
Thank
game.
you.
You said we could win, but you have an idea. Give a
I
score.
don't
One.
have any idea. I
Okay.
don't, and I don't want. I don't want. What my wish is just, let's win, guys.
Let's
Just
win.
let's win. you
Hey,
know.
a draw is a win. If we draw, we winning. I'm pretty sure my
Yeah,
fellow
they only
Congolese
have
will
to
not.
do that. This is what we
Yes,
want. We want joy. This is what we
yes.
need.
And for the football fans out there, we're not just gonna park the bus. We're gonna park the whole continent and
Exactly.
and hopefully not lose. But again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Love you. I will talk to you later.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Gaito.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Wow, that was Maman Benedict Njoko. Excited to have this conversation. This happened. And yeah, we discussed if you are joining just right now, you're late. You need to go back, rewind, and watch the entire show. We talked about history. We connected to the present and also the responsibility as a person, particularly those of the diaspora. We talked about the Kingdom of the Congo. That in the time when the Congo is going to face Portugal at the World Cup, June 17th, the Kingdom of the Congo did not need Portugal to exist. And that's the main theme or main idea that it existed. Congo existed before the arrival of colonial powers, before the arrival of Portugal explorers. It had existed for over a century before the Iroquois ships appeared at the river's mouth, at the Congo River's mouth. It had kings, and Mama Benedict talked about it. Kings, it had law, culture, and memory. So, what Portugal brought was colonialism introduced, right? It was not civilization. And as a matter of fact, we argued during this broadcast that the Congolese folks, the Kingdom of Congo, Lubai was also mentioned. We had they had their own political architecture, the way they also value women in the society, very much different than today. That colonialism came and disrupted that. Colonialism came and became a system of erasure and an architecture designed to make Congolese people forget what they were before. Mama Benedict talked about polygamy and how Congolese people think and they say that we are polygamous. No, we were not. And she gave an example. So colonialism made people forget what they were before someone else decided what they should become. And next week, Leopard will play Portugal. They play not as a nation. They needs they needs our support. They needs our I would say recognition. I think Mao Benedict spoke so powerfully about the arrival of the Congo team. People talked about, everybody's talking about the outfit. But Mom Benedict said that we arrived the Congo after being humiliated by the United States immigration system, being told even though all of the players are not even playing in the Congo, but they're required to quarantine for 21 days due to Ebola. And it's crazy when that news even came out that they are going to, right now, they're even preventing Congolese supporters to come in the US. Visas are being denied due to Ebola that is happening. And is, I think it's a serious health crisis. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to also minimize it. It's happening in the East. And 100 million Congolese people are right now being penalized for that. The very first, at the very same time, and that has been the story for the past 2 3 years, Friends of the Congo stood with allies and demanded a temporary protected status for Congolese people. And we were told that that was not possible because the situation in the Congo, this the war, the 30-year war of aggression of Rwanda, Uganda, financed, funded, covered, and watched by the United Kingdom, by the United States, by European powers, that those crises cannot become the reason why the US would allow millions or thousands, 100,000 of Congolese folks already living in the US to have a protected status. Why? Because that crisis is happening in the East. Fast forward, right? Fast forward, we have Ebola, and suddenly an entire nation is essentially condemned. An entire nation is essentially a sanction, I would say, and folks won't be able to be there flying from the Congo. But those who are in the US, and with the arrival of the Congolese team, I won't Benedict say that they came with dignity. They came with dignity, and on Wednesday, just like the arrival was shown, for the 90 minutes that the team will be playing, it will be an assertion, it will be a statement saying that we survived, that we exist because we survived. We survived colonization. We survived the racist brutality. We survived King Leopold II's brutal rule. We survived dictatorship. We survived capitalism. We survived uh, the dehumanization of Black people in the heart of Africa. We survived, and we're here. And we're here to exist, and we are here to resist. And the attire is just a statement. It's just a way, again, to show or to make our presence known, right? So we will face Portugal. The DRC will face Portugal. And like I was saying, they will play not as a nation that needs necessarily recognition, but as a nation that has always known who it is, even, even when the world refused to see it. The Kingdom of the Congo, or other states in the Congo and actual Congo, built its own roads. The DRC is building its own future. And that future, for the fans of football, that future for those who continue to dream of a free Congo, we also begin on a football pitch, because we will be present. We will go in as Congolese mondialists, and together with 1,000 of fans out there in the stadium, and those who couldn't make it, those who couldn't afford it, those watching from the TV, the smartphones, we have also a statement to make that we, as Congolese sons and daughters, we refuse to be invisible. So watch the game, feel the World Cup joy, and you, as a Congolese person watching this, or a person that also empathize with the Congolese suffering, you're allowed to also feel joy. But carry the history with you. Mama Benedict spoke about memory. Memory, because that is not a burden. Memory is the reason that you are still standing, because you're gonna remember that yesterday you were on your knee and today you are walking. So this was Congo Unfiltered. Happy Saturday. I was Gaetanzo, your humble host, and I will see you in a couple weeks. So peace out.